last video, you were assigned a short code exercise. There, you were asked to check which of the two lines of code, 1 or 2, could produce the length of the vector of unique elements for the first 50 members of GLC_L1. Let's first take option number 1. When writing nested code in R, recall that by nested I mean that one function is placed as argument within another function. The most important thing to remember is the order of opening and closing brackets that indicates the arguments of a function and the commas that separate the arguments of a function. In other words, you unpuzzle the code by looking at parentheses and commas. And that is exactly what you need to do here in order to interpret what this line of code does. Recall also from last video that R evaluates expressions in a from inside out fashion. So, starting with the innermost expression, we know that R will evaluate it and return the first 50 members of the vector GLC_L1, or else the first 50 languages of students of Greek as a second language. The next level up is unique, that takes the output of head and gives back the number of unique members it contains, which is 5. Let's head to the second option. Here, the inside function, head, has only one argument and returns the first 6 members of GLC_L1, whereas the unique function has 2 arguments, namely the head function and number 50. Finally, the outermost function is length, that has only one argument, the output of the unique function. R starts to evaluate the innermost function, head, and as you already know, by default, when no second argument is given, it outputs the first 6 members of the vector GLC_L1. At the next level, unique has 2 arguments. However, when you learned about the unique function, you may recall that it accepts 1 argument and not 2. Let me explain what happens here. The first argument within the parentheses is the required one. It is the vector whose unique members will be returned. In our case, this is the vector with the first 6 members of GLC_L1 returned by head. And the second argument is number 50. Apart from the first required argument, unique allows for further arguments that for the time being are not functional, meaning that they are not processed in any way. In a later video, when you will be learning about functions, I will explain you a type of argument called the 3 dots argument. For now, you simply need to keep in mind that although we said unique requires a single argument, it also allows for further arguments that do not play some additional role in this case. In other words, what the code of the second option does is that it returns the unique elements of the first 6 members of GLC_L1. That is why option number 1 is the correct choice for responding to the code exercise. And don't forget to also subscribe to the channel by pressing the relevant button on the video or on channel's homepage. And then, in order to get updates when new videos are released, you need to activate the bell notification that stands on channel's homepage.